Hello, I'm Narendra, and today I'm going to talk about a very interesting subject as to why some of our temples have erotic sculptures. You know about Khajuraho, Konark, and there are a few more temples where such sculptures are there. And you must have wondered as to why such sculptures are there in a religious temple. So I'll go into it. Let me start with Khajuraho because Khajuraho is the main prototype. All the other temples are modeled on that. So why did someone build a temple like that, those temples in Khajuraho with that concept? Uh, the origin of the Khajuraho temples is steeped in history and legend. It is said that a beautiful woman called Hemavati, she was having a bath in a pond at night, and the moon god saw her beauty and he fell in love with her and he came to her in human form and they had physical union. And when she expressed her apprehension to the moon god that what is going to happen to me after this, then the moon god said, don't worry, your son is going to be a great king and he would be a founder of a dynasty. And in due time Himwati gave birth to a son, and she named him Chandravarman. And Chandravarman is supposed to be the king who founded the Chandela dynasty, and he's the one who built those temples at Khajuraho. But the problem is, since Chandravarman did not have a father, nobody knew who his father was. Though he was a powerful king and he managed his kingdom very well, he did not enjoy respect in the eyes of the the learned people and the people belonging to the aristocratic class. So he called the wise men of his kingdom and said what is to be done. So they told him that you build temples and there you put these sculptures showing that sex between a man and a woman is something normal. Even illegitimate sex between a man and a woman is a normal thing. There's no taboo about it. And when people face this reality that yes, sex is a normal thing between a man and a woman, then that stigma that is attaching to your birth, that would go away. And accordingly, 84 temples were built in and around Khajuraho. As on date, I think some 22 temples are surviving. So now I'll go to the concept of the temple. In my production of video, I had told you that the temple has three layers. The outer wall of the temple represents the physical aspect of life, the body of the human being. And the inner corridor, it represents the mind of a person. And the sanctum sanctorum is the place, you can call it the soul of the temple, where man is supposed to surrender his ego to the deity of the temple. So these three levels, body, that is the outer structure and the outer walls of the temple, and the inner corridor, which goes around the sanctum sanctorum, the Garbhagriha, the inner corridor, that is the mind, that represents the mental level, and the Garbhagriha is the soul of the temple. So body, mind, and soul. And that is why you see all these uh, sculptures, whether erotic or otherwise, you will always find them in the outer wall of the temple because that is an outer aspect of life. Hinduism believes that there are four ends of life: artha, kama, dharma, and moksha. Artha is the means to live life, that you can call it money in a narrow sense. That is artha, the means to continue your physical existence. And karma is a legitimate end of life, that is the satisfaction of desires, both mental and emotional. So karma and artha, these are the legitimate ends of life. And there is dharma, that is ethical living. You have to follow certain rules of ethics to exist in a society. That is dharma. And moksha is spiritual liberation. That is the final end of life. What is the purpose of life? Hinduism says it's moksha, spiritual liberation. That is the purpose of life. So artha, kama, dharma, and moksha. These are the four ends of life. And the outer wall of the temple It concerns the physical aspect of our lives, and that is where you would find these erotic sculptures, because sex is an important part of our lives. And you'll be surprised that those erotic sculptures, they form just about 10% of the total sculptures that are found there. Only 10%. But understandably, they receive the maximum amount of publicity, and they are discussed the most. And you will find other aspects of outer life. You will see people making war, women beautifying themselves, people, carrying out their daily activities. All those scenes are depicted in the outer worlds, along with the uh, sexual statues or whatever. So sex was not a stigma in those days, and you go to any Indian temple, you see the female sculptures that are there. They are not wearing a sari the way you now people in India wear, the Indian women, the way they wear the sari. You won't find it in any temples. Mostly their upper body is bare, and even if they are wearing some blouse kind of a thing around, their shoulders are open, and women used to show their body in those days. The showing of skin was not a taboo. It was we were a very open society. All this puritanism and this parda and all these ghungat and all these things, they are the influence of the colonizers. First the Middle Eastern colonizers, and then the English, the Victorian morals and all. So this British and Islamic, these two kinds of colonization that took place in our country, those colonizations brought about this trend of puritanism in our dresses and coats. You go to any temple, like the Gupta period and all that, any temple you go, you will not find people dressed in a conservative way. The women are showing their skin. They are not squeamish about showing their bodies. And see their expressions. They're so ecstatic. They're joyful. So that's it. We kind of always thought that sex is an important part of life, and we were not shy about showing that, depicting that in the walls of the temples. What a bold culture we had. But once you go inside the temple, in the inner corridor, you will not find any erotic sculpture there, because already the outer aspects you have left outside. The way we leave our slippers outside, you also leave the outer aspects of your life outside when you enter. Now, when you are in the inner corridor, you kind of purify yourself mentally, and at least temporarily, you drop your mental associations with the outer world and you concentrate on the deity of the temple. And of course, once you enter the temple, the Garbhagriha, you surrender your ego there. So that is the concept: body, mind, and soul. So that's the concept of the temple. And you see, there is in Hinduism, sex is not only was it accepted, it was sacred also. Sex was sacred to us. We were not shy. It was sacred for us. Like we worship the Shivalinga and the Yoni. The Shivalinga is placed in the Yoni, and we worship that. It's one of the most revered sacred symbols of Hinduism, because that is the source of creation, where the female and male energies are coming together. That's the source of creation, the lingam in a yoni. So, and you know about Kama Sutra, Vatsyayana's Kama Sutra, and all that. We had all those things. It was a very liberated and enlightened society, where there was a lot of openness and probably more gender equality than what we have now. So this, like I said, this Puritanism, it came because of the Islamic and the British conquests, the Victorian morals and all that, and now, even now you are seeing the hijabs and burqas and all that. Strict Puritanism, a medieval patriarchal dress codes and all that, how they are being imposed. So Hinduism did not associate sex with shame. It was something beautiful for us. It was aesthetic for us. Look at those sculptures. They are so beautiful. Look at their faces. Even in sexual union, look at their faces. They're so ecstatic, and the girls are smiling. They are showing. They are shy. All those expressions are there. Shringara rasa, what we call. So it's that. It's that. And this. There's also a theory which says that these temples are tantric temples. You know that in the path of Tantra, in the left hand path of Tantra, sex is one of the ingredients. Maithuna, it is called the Panchamakaras. Again, I have to explain to you all these concepts. Probably some other video. We have to keep it for some other video to discuss the concepts of Tantrism. So there is a theory which says that these are tantric temples. Uh, but I have doubts about that, because like Kamakhya shrine and the Tarapit shrine, they are also very famous tantric temples. But there, I don't find erotic sculpture. So I'm not very sure about this concept that Khajuraho or Konark and all these temples were built on the model that was given out by Khajuraho. All those were followers. Khajuraho was the pioneer. So I have doubts about that theory which says that these are tantric temples. I need to study more about this to say anything uh, about it certainly. If I gather more information, probably I'll come back to you and tell you. So I'm not very sure about that these are tantric temples because other like I said, Kamakhya, Tarapit, there are other famous tantric sites where erotic sculptures are not there. But I find that logic that dharma, artha, kama, moksha, artha and kama, these are the legitimate ends of life, and there's no harm in showing what our lives are. There should not be any squeamishness, there should not be any shame about what our lives are. We were a liberated, enlightened culture. So it found expression in those sculptures. You would be surprised to know that Gandhi had suggested that these sculptures should be destroyed. They should be chipped away from the walls of the temple because they do not reflect Indian culture. Fortunately, Rabindranath Tagore he intervened and he said that they are national treasures, and if our ancestors had been sexual people, we should not run away from that fact. Thanks to Tagore, that these cultures still exist, and they are a wonder of architectural creation and beauty. So that is one of the good things about our culture. So appreciate our culture, and I hope I have been able to explain to you why we have those erotic sculptures in such temples. Thank you very much for watching.